development and additional recurrent expenditure. In the sense that if you look at the numbers that we have from when we, for the first time, took up the devolved government as a country, everything has actually looked up. Health facilities have increased from 8,466 in 2013 to 16,655. That's more than doubling. Doctors have increased from 874 to 4,398 as of today. Nurses have gone up from 6,600 to 31,900, almost 32,000. Agricultural extension officers from 1,700 to over 8,000. But the revenue allocation to counties is even yet to double from the numbers that we started with in 2013. And it's good that the chair of this committee was the governor in 2013 in the first cohort of government. So he will know what it is that I'm talking about. So whilst devolution, with all its challenges, is doing what it ought to do by taking services closer to the people, the division of revenue is not keeping pace with that, which then makes it impossible for us to maintain PFM ratios. And the two critical ratios I have in mind here are the 70-30 between development and between recurrent and development, and also 35-65 of the wage bill to revenue ratio. Increasingly, Chair, there are non-discretionary expenditures that counties have to absorb. We all know of the housing levy, the cost of the indigents now with respect to the new health scheme is also to be borne by the counties. NSSF rates have increased. Chair, I was sitting in for my chair in these discussions on the CBA the last couple of nights. And whereas we're discussing the arrears of the 3.5, if we are to sustain the new basic that the doctors are asking for, counties will require as much as 7 billion shillings every single year to just sustain that. Additions over and above their rents. And this is because of the additional costs that come with an increased basic. They will affect the NSSF, they'll affect the housing levy, they will affect the pensions. So, and then there's the CFP issues. There is the UHC now that we've been asked to absorb. So all these non-discretionary expenditures, which I call uncontrollable expenditures, really, because they're not really within our control, adding up to our costs. Chair, my chair of finance has spoken about the issue of the mess equipment. The figure of 5.8 is the maintenance cost in line with the contracts that are currently in force. But a lot of these equipment are actually approaching the end of their useful life. They're getting fully depreciated. The Senate has looked into this matter of the mess before, and the numbers that were being talked of that were used to deploy those equipments were in the region of 42 billion. Even assuming that that number was inflated, if we are to replace those equipment ourselves in our counties, we will need at least 25 or 30 billion shillings, which is not factored in. Short of which then, a patient who was used to getting dialysis machine in Wajir will now have to come to KNH, as the case was before those machines were deployed. So, Chair, there's the issue of roads, where our constitution is very clear. In classifying roads as only being between national trunk roads and county roads. These agencies, KENHA, KERA, and KURA, which are all national agencies implementing roadworks, ought to have been restructured to fit into the new constitutional dispensation, so that national government only retains money relating to national trunk roads and transfers the money relating to county roads. But that is not the case. And the National Assembly, in its wisdom, has said that counties will not have a shilling of the RLMF, thereby, in a sense, saying that counties have no roads to maintain. Chair, these are really our issues. We actually believe that if, as Senate, you do not come into this in a big way and give counties what is due to them, then counties will continue to struggle and counties will just end up paying salaries and doing nothing else really. Chair, whenever we raise issues of revenue, there are two matters that are brought as an argument. One is the matter of on-source revenue. Our ability to raise revenue under Article 209 is limited by what taxes or levies we can charge, which are basically entertainment and land rates and user levies, basically. Counties have different abilities to generate revenue. Chair, just to give you an example, last year my county raised 46 million. I've put in a lot of effort. By end of Q3 this year, which Q3 has just ended, I have taken that to 117 million. I have taxed everything possible. So if I stretch that to the end of the year, I'll probably have raised 150, 160. It will not even cover the increase in housing levy on my bill. Our counties in the manner in which they constituted. And they decided that the main direct and indirect taxes will be collected at national level and shared in the formula of DORA. So the other thing that's usually raised is the issue of accountability and wastage. Chair, all bureaucracies have a level of wastage and that, I would say, is not excusable. But again, counties are 47, and they are different. They might even be different from this term and the next term. And it's not to say that the national bureaucracy also doesn't have wastage. So it's our belief as governors that wastage be dealt with in line with the constitutional provisions and the laws that are in place on the basis of individual accountability, but should not be used as an excuse to deny counties what is rightfully theirs. Chair, I'll end my case there and I give an opportunity to my colleagues. I will first of all give it to my chair to add.
Thank you, Vice. I think you have covered everything adequately, and I don't want to belabor the issues. The only thing that maybe I would want to emphasize is on the issue of the DORA being pegged on the revenue. I think the Constitution is clear that ideally it should be pegged on the last audited account. Now, naturally, if you look at the audited accounts that are currently there, for those of us who come to the Senate, I think for most counties, we're already being audited for the year 2022, 2023. In fact, those audit reports are already out. But on the side of the national government, the audited reports are a couple of years behind, and maybe deliberately so that when we are calculating then the revenue, you are basing it on a much older figure as opposed to the new one. So one of the things also the Senate could help is give a timeline. that in the same way that you have given a timeline for county governments, that the same also applies for the national government, and then we would be talking a little bit more on an equitable platform. The second issue is on revenue, because that is very easy to twist on in the public domain. You know, the public doesn't know what taxes we collect, general public, and what the national government collects. So when they say that the counties ought to, and this comes maybe from a learned friend or a member of parliament, they tend to believe that maybe counties are not making an effort. Now, Wajir is unique, as you know, just like many of the northeastern counties. Other counties are doing a lot better in terms of improving, but there's a limit, there's a ceiling, how far you can go. If I give the example of Kirinyaga, for example, when I came it was about 170, we've gone to 300, we went to 550, and this year we have a target of 600. But that is really pushing. You cannot go beyond that. And I'm sure you've seen even the fight when the business owners, when you change the taxes. However, if in the event that you calculate how much they need, for example, comes from Kirinyaga, the entire Kirinyaga County, how much of the income tax, VAT comes from a county, and you collect, if you put that together, you would see that the counties do collect revenue, only those revenues are actually assigned to the national government. So our plea, Chair, because you have heard about all the increases that we have, even with just the new taxes, just increasing housing levy, and NSSF for Kirinyaga has taken my wage bill by 60 million shillings, and I'm a small county. I'm the fifth smallest in terms of the revenue that I receive. And there's nothing you can do about it because you have to pay, and the numbers of staff are there, and you just have to multiply. And when you add now the CBA, we don't even know whether we are going to be able to buy medicine. It is that serious. It's actually not a favor we are asking for. We're asking just to even break even, to get resources enough to break even for counties to continue staying afloat. So we would request that this committee, being the committee responsible for pushing matters finance in the House, while considering all the things that have been raised by both the Vice Chair and the Chair of Finance, that the committee pushes for
FM charge, ATM radio, more ATM radio, 88.1 RAM charge, 8.2 FM. We are in charge. More radio, 88.2 FM. We are in charge. More radio, 88.2 FM. We are in charge. More Radio 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 88.2 FM. FM. We are in charge. More Radio 88.2 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 FM. We are in charge.
How far you can go.
More Radio 88.2 FM. We are in charge. 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 More Radio 88.2 FM. We are in charge.
If we are not able, for example, I'm sure you have seen the suffering of Kenyans out there. It's not harming the leaders, it's harming the Kenyan people. And it's only fair that we request that you call a sitting on this issue and push for the revenue that has been allocated to the counties to be increased. You know the counties asked for 450 billion. I know there is a figure that the Senate settled on, and then there is the RMLF, which also we should ask the question, who should be building roads? What is really, whose responsibility is it to build these roads? And when these roads are not built, who will be held responsible for them? And not to mix the issue of the RMLF with the shareable revenue, because it was not part of the shareable revenue. And I think mixing it and deducting, there can be no justification whatsoever to the deduction or the reduction of the amount of money that was allocated last year and the money that is allocated this year, despite all the increments in costs, both in terms of programs, demands for public service, and also inflation. I submit, Chair.
Thank you, Chair. I have appeared, I think, a number of times before the Senate committees to mention the fact that counties have never had a cent allocated to them for the function of the ECB. Currently, as we speak, counties are grappling with a huge weight bill, where we have now hired about 42,600 ECD teachers. From the onset, this function was never costed, it was never handed on. We have to look for extra funds from that. There is, just a few days ago, the library function was also revoked. Unfortunately, remember the saga that was there. But as we are speaking today, it is important that, Chair, we bring to your notice that the only funds that have been revoked are salaries to the 33 counties, nothing else. The O&M has not been revoked. We have no funds for that. We have, and of course, development and all others, you know, that comes with a cost, pension and all that. These are really definitely going to increase our weight bill and our expenditure. I want to also speak on, when we look at the increase, I think my Vice Chair spoke about the increase in medical facilities, the increase in the number of doctors, the increase in the number of nurses, the increase in number, you know, when you look at that huge workload that has continued to increase, and he mentioned some figures, right? Like right now, in 2013 we had around 6,000 nurses in Kenya. Today we have 31,000. The doctors, there were 874. Today they are 4,398 in the county. Yet, it's important that we say the health function is operating at less than 45%. And we have the desire. One of the conditions of the CBA, and one of the reasons the doctors are on the streets, is that they expect us to hire more doctors. We have no money. So looking at that, even without belaboring the issue of RMLF and all that, I must also say this, because we are all living in this country. It is important that we stop pitting each other against the As leaders, we have the National Assembly, we have the Senate, and we have the Council of Governors. And we have a mandate to serve the people. How we do it should be without necessarily trying to bring in the other people down. And what do I mean? I think it was mischievous for whoever did it to take away RMLF when the Constitution is so clear. And it is so clear that Class D, Class A, all those belong to counties. But then, it is important that we bring to the notice of the Senate, who you are, like has been said, we really appreciate your protection of counties. And even when we appear here to answer questions on accountability, that is part of the process. And we really appreciate. It is important that we stand together to defend devolution. Let me end by saying this. As long as counties are steady, this country will remain steady. So long as there are challenges in counties, it doesn't matter what national government does, the base will shake and it will not be steady. And therefore, the only way we can do is ensure we are never asking for more than what the Constitution allows. We just want that we are able to address the needs of our people. When Wajir government has askaris marching around the governor's office, the people of Wajir say there is government. Now, when all that is transferred to Nairobi, and the only people we have there are those that are dealing with the other, elements, it takes away that. So to make this country steady, we must also say we have observed a slow, deliberate, erosion of the powers of counties and whatever. And that is why every other day a song is sung in this country about pending bills. Pending bills will forever continue being in counties as long as we continue receiving less than we should. Because when we have to provide drugs in our hospitals, when we have to do the development that we have to do for our people, when we even have to provide services, then it must be commensurate with the funds that we have. And so, considering devolution came to try and bring equity, we pray that this 450 we had proposed be the figure that we could ask you to approve. Thank you very much. I submit.
Thank you, Chair. And I want to associate myself with the sentiments that have been made by my colleagues and just dwell on two issues that may have been touched, but I would like to emphasize. Number one, Chair, I have looked at what was given to the county in the year 2023-2024, which is 385.4 billion, and what was given, what is being proposed by the National Assembly now to be given to the counties, which is 391.1. The difference, even for those who did not attend serious classes in mathematics, is only 6 billion. But I see what CRA presented to you this morning is 16.6. And I hope that Dr. Iboni Alwale noticed that irregularity, because that is it's very far away from the truth. Now, looking at the 6 billion that is being the increase in what is being proposed, and all the functions that we've talked about, and I would like to dwell on the one that is very, very fresh in the minds of the people. We have a CPA that was signed by the doctors in 2017. The national government has agreed and committed to pay the arrears. which is 3.5 billion. What that paying of the arrears means is that they have accepted, or we shall have accepted, to increase the salaries of the doctors, because you are paying arrears because you increase the salaries but did not pay. So what it means is that from that particular day when we sign the return to work formula, the burden of paying the current salary, which will have been agreed upon, is on the county governments. And that is what has been calculated to be 5.8 billion. That 5.8 billion, which is just a fraction of what we have given you this afternoon, including the housing levy, the CHPs, the medical equipments, if it is not available instantly, it therefore means that we shall have negated again on another CBA, meaning the doctors will go back on the streets. So even as we sit here, it is important to know that what we are.
Number two, last year we stuck our necks out for you people on the amount that was due. And members from our side, that the opposition, even here we have opposition and the government side. And our chairman was also very grateful that he stuck to his position, has provided for in the reports that we tendered in Senate. However, the council, I think, went and agreed with the government and accepted the amount that was being offered. And therefore, when the vote was taken, my brother Khalwali even also, they also voted against our report. So we are ready to stick our necks out, but are you people ready also to stick your necks out, so that whatever we say in our report, you'll be able to defend it, because it will be supporting you. Yeah, we are the people who decide what the amounts that are supposed to go into the bill, and we vote for that. But you people have to support us also, so that when we go out, we know that we have the council behind us. Number three is the on-source revenue. Yeah, we know some counties do not have any other thing to tax or to levy. However, you have not come up with any ideas on what can be done to be able to boost these sources of revenue. It's like we have been given 1, 2, 3, and we are just relying on that 1, 2, 3. And this is the third cycle of devolution. You have economic experts, you have all manner of experts that you employ in your counties. But maybe they have not come up with any framework that, look, we can now move from this to this, and we need the support of the Senate in order to help us actualize these objectives. You see, we are told, yes, we can levy on this, but this is not the only thing that we can do. This law is man-made. We can seek an amendment of the Constitution so that we give you more revenue streams that can assist the counties in accessing more money. And you also, if you also look at your budgets, I was looking at the one for Mombasa. There are some streams which are moribund. 10 years ago, even the former municipal council was not charging, but you still see it there. You still see it in the finance bill that they are going to collect this in terms of this and this and so on and so forth. So you need to come up also to be innovative. You should not be just tied to whatever is there. We can amend the law so that we are able to give you more opportunities for you to raise revenue. The quarrel that we have on this on-source revenue is that most of the counties have not automated. And if they have automated, then a certain share, a bigger share goes to the owner of that, what we call software, than what comes to the council, to the county. There are some counties which are like that, and they'll go on and spend more money to be able to hire that system rather than maybe what you'll be collecting at the end of the day. So those are my concerns, and I think the issue of accountability and wastage, yes, is a concern to us. We looked at the control of budget report and on the issues of development. Some counties are badly off Yeah, and I don't know what the Council of Governors is doing, because this is portraying a bad image to the whole Council of Governors. I know you defend each other as we defend ourselves also. But still, it affects your what we call your global outlook as a committee that is supposed to manage our resources. Thank you.
Senator Halane.
Mr. Chairman, like my colleagues, I want to confirm that we shall be informed by this document that you have uttered here in arriving at the possible figure that could come to you. Because what you are stating here is reasonable, really, to speak. My second comment is Chair of Council. In my other life, I was working in Kirinyaga when I was still young and handsome. So when I go to Kirinyaga, for example, and I see what it is, specifically healthcare, devolution as well, it's working. The countryside is far much better than it was before devolution. So, Your Excellencies, you are doing a good job. But having said that, there's a TikTok that I've managed to look at of a relay race of 5-year-olds. A relay. So the children run, one in yellow, another in, and one team in yellow, one in blue, another in red. So there is this little boy, 5 years like his age mates, he's given the baton. And when he takes off, he goes the reverse direction and completely spoils the rest. With due respect, yeah, that's what you guys sometimes do. The baton reaches you, and I see you run in a different direction. For example, I have never seen what the Council of Governors can come with out of IBEC meetings. Those are the people you're competing with for the resource that we are dividing. So the only thing they can want is to talk you into being submissive. Secondly, in this room we have very serious discussions that go on. I can see we are headed for mediation because we are going to disagree completely with the National Assembly. So they will come with their figure of 391, will come with whatever we're going to agree on after this has informed us. Then we shall disagree and the Constitution will bring us into a mediation. Don't do what you did last time. I was somewhere, we are waiting to come for mediation here on your money, and I'm charged. I was the chair for the Senate team, and my brother Nindi was the chair for the team of the National Assembly. And co-chair, I saw you guys in some hotel, and my co-chair Nindi wrote on his social media that the problem is sorted out, and we were coming to sort out the issue of road maintenance levy. So let's stick to the rules. If, as I think it was Faki who said, if you just relax a little bit and we have put pressure, then they realize, these things the Senate is just talking mambo yao, sio position of Council of Governors. My final point is, colleagues, we are all men and women of this country. I think you should go back and reflect. I can see you have only 3 sources of revenue. You either get it from share of revenue, or your own source revenue that you raise, or if you're lucky, the grants that we get. Why? Over the last 11, 12 years, share of revenue has grown, and it has been taken to counties. The assumption, which is fair, because the counties are better, is that the economies of the counties have grown, however little. Why is that growth not being reflected in own source revenue? If Kirinyaga, a small county, can struggle to move from 120, you see, now to 600, where is Kiambu? Where is Nakuru? Where is Nairobi? Where is Kakamega? Those are the Machakos. You are the giants. We're supposed to see your revenue. Abdullahi has raised this from 46 million to 100. So, ile mchezo yenye inafanyika on source revenue, Council of Governors, okay, you reflect on it and agree that we have to build this country seriously, because there is serious abuse of own source revenue by way of under declaration of what is collected, or simply, unfortunately, in some cases, where the money is shared, not by the governor, but the people who work under you. We're going to do slightly more. Then finally, I see you, Council of Governors, not all of you, but some of the governors. I see you go for retreats with members of parliament, and my brother Njuki, you have just expressed your disappointment. It's nice, I see your call. But I can assure you, they can never give you anything. Anything. They only wait to hear what the National Treasury has requested for. That's what they support. Why you don't find it necessary, especially the Committee of Finance, you should be working hand in glove with the Committee of Finance and Budget in the Senate. When we share those experiences, it becomes fairly productive and helpful for our counties. I say this because my dream had been that some of my children would work in Nairobi and others would work in Kakamega. But our children are still running to Nairobi for employment. Devolution should employ some of these people, and I can hear you saying you don't want to employ people. We want to employ people. You must employ our children. And to employ it means you grow the economy in the county. Asanteni sana.
Okay, thank you very much. I think much has been reflected on as I listened to honorable members of the committee's contributions or observations largely that do not require your inputs. Yes, you didn't even introduce yourself, Senator Eddy. I tried to raise you severally. I'll give you a chance thereafter shortly. Now, there is, not everything you've presented is billable to national government. As your colleagues, allow me to tell you the truth, because it pains me a little bit when you work outside realities of your environment. For example, I see you governors making public pronouncements and political statements where you accept county aggregation industrial parks, you will do 50%, national government does 50%. You give the commitment. When you know the reality in your budget cannot support it. For example, community health promoters, you accept to do percentage. When your wage bill is already, the budget can't sustain it. Now, if you make feel-good political statements that have financial, implication, and then at the end you cry and you say discretionary expenditure, it is discretionary because you made the choice when the reality dictates otherwise. Mine is just, I urge you to restrain yourselves from making commitment that has financial implication just because of feel-good mentality in government, where you think a proposal is made and you stand up and you say, I will match it up. The reality is your budget can't support, because then these numbers are turning to, there's only one that is maybe not by your choice, that one of national Social Security Fund and the health, those ones that come through acts of parliament. But the commitments you make sometimes have very serious implications on you. Please don't feel obligated or nice to join the chorus of political statement when the reality can't support it, because then it adds on to your pressure as it is. On the issue of the base, we are on the same frequency with you because we've engaged CRA. They have used the wrong base, so their number in terms of the absolute number of 16 is erroneous, because the base as passed and anchored in law is 385.425, and there can't be any further reference. And it was a huge error to lump RMLF as part of shareable revenue, because that's a governed act, as it is, and it's a fund that is supposed to be appropriated differently. What you have presented, he thinks that, quite sincerely, as at now, including the two I mentioned that was just political feel-good, popular statement you had to make as governor, just because the executive made that proposal, you chorously said yes. The rest are, it's non-discretionary. There is no way that CBA has been signed with the doctors. The impact is 5.8 billion shilling annually. County government must pay. There is no two way around it. If you don't get the money, then the doctors will remain on the streets. And Mugomi, you're spot on, to be very, very frank, because I sit at a very disadvantaged position as a former governor who has been there for 10 years. So some of the realities you discuss are glaring reality in my head in terms of the absolute numbers and how inflexible, these numbers are. You can't tweak wage bill. There is no way, you can play around with everything else, but you cannot touch the wage bill, and that you have not even added. They are mandatory, even inbuilt system generated IPPD system that at the end of some period, it automatically adjusts. And these are realities that has happened. So, whereas the difference between what is proposed in the bill and what you are requesting is huge, but the realities that inform your request is extremely rational. In terms of the impact of National Social Security Fund at 3 billion, the Social Health Insurance Fund that has impact, the county aggregated that has an impact, 11 point something billion, and these are reality. So the Senate will do its bit, because as we were campaigning, and as I joined the race for Senate, I said I will fight for devolution. And so are my colleagues here, Senator Khalwale, Senator Onyonka, and the other senators who are online. We will do our bit. The reality is that you, instead of waiting for this discussion at the time of budget policy statement and DORA, a realistic discussion that's very rational between the executive, parliament, and council of governors need to take place, so that costing of functions is done with reality. I want to congratulate you for the first time, because this is the third engagement we are having. I seated in the Senate. This is the first time I see you presenting data that is backed by scientific computation, that is able to be rationalized, things that can be discussed. When you say we can offer services, and as a result of that, we request increase of this much, but you can't justify, then it makes no sense, because then it becomes just a statement, a feel-good statement. If you're able to justify why you need the increase on the basis of numbers, that even if National Treasury was to interrogate this reality, then it is impossible for them to come up with a different number other than the real impact of what is happening, particularly issues that you have raised, which are very scientific in terms of the data. We can guarantee we will give you what you ask, but we will guarantee we will put up the fight on your behalf in the light of the realities of what is available, and to also convince our colleagues in the Senate to be able to see sense in this non-discretionary expenditure that counties can adjust, and see what can come out of that. I want to give Senator Eddy opportunity to say something. If Senator Shakila also wants to say something, this is your chance. Senator Eddy.
Hello, Chair. I don't even like to speak once you have spoken. You being the chair, sometimes it's hard to speak after you. And I think that in this case particularly, you have summarized some of the thoughts that I wanted to share. Indeed, I've been listening in, and I think that I'm equally very impressed by the way it is. But I think that perhaps just in terms of actionable areas by CDOG, I think that the first bit of concern that I have personally as a senator is whether the COG understands the role of the Senate, and I know this might come as looking down upon the COG, but does the COG understand the role of the Senate and sees the opportunity that we can be able to work together collaboratively to fight some of these fights? Because to elaborate on the issue of the political announcements that we have seen that sometimes bring about questions on budget conversations in the county, that political conversation sometimes just ignores the Senate completely and rather than the Senate are able to do. Like, I mean, we've seen a number of times here where this particular committee and the committee that Nyonga talked about, CPIC, goes and into the night with the National Treasury, trying to push for even a simple thing as disbursement. And in some cases, I've seen you, Chair, going out of your way and together with this team to fight so much for the allocation for this county. But my problem is that it seems that the counties have not been able to employ the strategic placement of the Senate to be able to have prior conversations, such as this, of course, this formally, it's the whole engagement, but even informally, conversations that can be able to help think and rethink budgets in counties and how that then comes to the conversation of the national government. So, for instance, the issue of some of these serious functions that have been devolved, that we see the counties themselves plowing back on devolution, the counties themselves giving back this, either the power of this function to the national government, relinquishing their power completely in terms of how they can be able to implement them. And some of them have been, I don't want to quote some of them because they've been quoted here by fellow senators, including things like that. The allocation that has been denied to most cities, things like CCD at the expense of just the normal batteries, and I have a bill that seeks to address this kind of thing. But I believe, Chair, that going forward to find a way of working with the Senate as collaborators and as partners, rather than as political adversarial relationship that we are seeing either directly or indirect. And then lastly, Chair, I also wanted to stress on the idea that the COG is an executive office because it comes from an executive position of
to bring this to the because you are heading the finance committee in the COG. Chair, I feel that the reason why we've been having a problem with of revenue remittances and something being raised all the time as to why the local governors can go not into the time period. You remember the formula we are using is calculated from audited books of account by the Auditor General, which are now 3 years away. We never consider the issue of the collectible revenue. Right now, we are at 362 billion. My field teacher, he can come and we sit down and figure out how, if the auditors not update, then why don't you look at what we used last of the revenue that was audited and was used as a formula to calculate the shareable revenue, but at the same time we must consider the aspect of the money that has been collected by the government currently. For example, you have the 363 billion that the government has collected. How then do you give the Council of Governors only 6 billion? It just doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll give you opportunity to have your closing statement to the of your team, and we do appreciate the input. We will sit and deliberate on them. For now, we will not be able to tell you it's admitted or not, but we can certainly say they're very rational, and some are not flexible to be subjected to amendment. Closing statement.
Thank you, Chair. I think I just want to take this opportunity to thank you and your committee for according us this time to put out our case on the issue of the increase in the amount of resources that counties have been given. Thank you for acknowledging that they are rational and that and the improvement that we have had. I don't want to go into the details of all the issues that have been raised. I think those issues cannot be fully exhausted in a sitting such as this, and we are looking forward to collaborating with your committee on all the issues that have been raised, the issues of own source revenue, the question of unbundled functions which was done, gazetted and degazetted, and also on the true facts that have to do with revenue collection and percentages. I think there is a lot of rumors that are out there, and some of those rumors have influenced a lot of people's thinking. So then they are saying, for example, that those who collect the revenue go with a very huge percentage of the revenue because they're the ones with the system. But I don't want to belabor that. I think we can have other sittings where we actually come with the breakdowns of those issues to respond to each item. For us at this point in time, and to stay focused, is we are requesting your consideration of an increase in the revenue. Even if you cannot tell us what that is, we want to assure you that the council this year has stuck to the same figure at IBEC and everywhere, which was 450 if we considered, which includes the RMLF resources to counties. With that, Chair, I want to thank you once again on behalf of my colleagues, and thank your committee as well for giving us this opportunity, and look forward to a positive outcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Domi, this is the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. Our sentiments are genuine. That's just for the record, so that you understand. That is why the budget policy statement had a different number from what was passed by National Assembly. Number 2 and second last, I urge you, Governor Baraza, on behalf of COG, there are false notions that there is no growth in revenue at the county governments, and that is billable to Council of Governors directly, because if you don't communicate and you are in political offices, then what is said by anybody else passes. You need to have scientific data, present the revenue projections county by county, year by year, to be able to show how revenues have grown, so that you're able to communicate what is happening, because this scientific verifiable information is very critical for it to be out there. You can even publish Because every discussion we have is counties are not growing their revenues. But the reality is very different. I know there are counties that have challenges, but most counties are doing very well in terms of revenue growth under the circumstance that the revenue streams and centers are very minimal. And I see many political statements, you propose some adjustment in some tariff, and they say you're making doing business extremely expensive. But then there is no counter narrative, so it remains a fact that you are becoming impediments to businesses when the reality is very different. You need to discuss that. And lastly, I want to request you, having been there for 10 years and being here, you need to support the revenue, the integrated revenue automation system that is being looked into to be adapted at the county level as it is, because you will have better visibility and minimal pilferage if everything is automated. And as to whether you can come up with your own, integrated system that will give you better visibility, or otherwise is a different question altogether. But what is important that in this day, age, and era, you can't operate without automation in this level of technology. So one way or the other, you must have revenue automation to be able to make your life easy. Thank you very much, and we close at that. I would like to release you guys and appreciate your coming forward.
More Radio, 88.2 FM. We are in charge.
Development and additional recurrent expenditure.